Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. When you're tuned in, you're with Lady Business and Give It to the People Radio, where you're going to get enlightened, enhanced, empowered, and enriched. Make sure that you always tune in to Give It to the People Radio. Good day, beautiful people. We're back with another episode of Share Small Biz, and today we are featuring a marvelous business that's based in Charlotte, North Carolina, that is Black-owned and woman-owned, and I'm thinking that she probably thinks she's so sweet, too. And you'll see why I said that. So, Clinetta Allen, if you can let us know about your business that's so sweet, then that would be really awesome. Give us a little bit of feedback about your business, and then we'll jump all the way in.
Okay. The name of my business is the Charmed Agency, and Charmed stands for Changing How Adolescents Reach and Meet Evolutionary Demands. And what we do is we teach etiquette. What does that mean? We teach manners. I noticed when I was teaching that the children didn't speak in the morning. They bump into you, don't say, excuse me, none of that. So we teach etiquette. We also do clothing and style, clothing and dress, interviewing skills, communication skills, dining etiquette, and we just try to wrap it all up into one big bundle.
Wow. And that's really awesome because, I think when I was in school, you would always speak, and I just was brought up on respect that when you walk into a room, you speak. But I see that that's right. Something that's a lost art now. And that's how I look at etiquette, as an art form of really teaching you decorum of how to actually conduct yourself in person. And, do you feel like it should be something that should be taught in school all over?
Of course. Remember, growing up, we were taught in home economics class. They showed us how to set a table. They gave us the right introductions. They showed us how to shake hands. That's where we were taught etiquette. But now we don't. They teach you the test. All they want to do is that their kids just have to pass the test. That's about it.
Wow. So that is something that if we could put back into a curriculum in school, but let's just say, if somebody said, well, look, I want to hire you because the kids at our school definitely need to get this type of training. Now we're working with the season of COVID. Can you do this virtually to be able to help people so that this way they don't have to come anywhere and you don't have to go anywhere?
Yes, I offer virtual etiquette lessons via Zoom, so it's possible.
Okay, and so this way anybody could be anywhere in the world and they could understand what etiquette is.
Yes, they could.
Now, when a person is taking your etiquette class, and let's just say if they're online or even if they're in person, what are some of the things that you go over? Let's just say if we're talking about presenting ourselves at a meal, what are some of those things that you help us learn?
The first thing that we talk about are introductions. Who goes first and how you introduce yourself. Okay. A lot of people give you a handshake that feels like a fish. Nobody wants a fish. And people make their first impressions of you in the first 7 seconds that they meet you. Okay. So it's important that when you come to a table, you introduce yourself, especially if you're sitting across from a potential employer or a potential millionaire, you want some of their money. Mm-hmm. It's important to have good impressions in those first 7 seconds. That's the first thing that I do. Okay. The next thing that we do is we head to the table. I usually set the table for a 4-course meal, but you can always do a smaller set, like a casual dining where there's just 1 fork. Okay. But we always start with 2 forks on the side and then all of the other forks that go with a 4-course meal. So this gives us what all of those forks are for, right? Like all of the forks, all of the spoons, knowing which knife to use, which side of the table for things to be on. And that can be daunting. How you sit at the table. Yeah. How you sit what you do with your napkin, what you do if you have to get up to go to the bathroom, all of that's in the lesson. Wow. And that's a lot of stuff that people just don't know. And so when it's not taught to you and it's not like second nature, you don't usually have that as a part of your mannerisms, but you being able to give people that lets them know. Now, I would think, and I got 2 different things. One, that adults would definitely need your service because there are a lot of adults that grew up and they did not have etiquette as a part of what they learned. And so when you look at that, I think that when you're talking about, you mentioned jobs, you mentioned investors, adults are the ones that definitely need to take this as well. I agree. I have had, the youngest person I taught was 4. The oldest person I taught was 80. Wow. So there are some adults who are still trying to learn. When I was teaching in the school system, I found out that parents would sit in the back of the class and feverishly take notes while I was teaching their children.
Look at
them. So I just started making extra copies so they wouldn't have to write as much. And then once the students were taking their written portion, I would bring the adults to the table and make them learn from the table, not just from the paper.
Oh, okay. So the parents were kind of getting a little 2-for-1 lesson.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, we need you to pay parents.
How they're going to teach it.
Yeah, no. And that's true. And I think that when you look at all different areas, so if you talk about, I know you've worked with like daycare centers, you've worked with other schools. It may be also something that's great for people that are homeschooling because their kids are used to eating at home. And so they're not out as much into the world. And so this would be a great thing, whether you're doing homeschool or, you know, traditional school, even getting them to learn. So when you talk about that really young age, that's kind of setting them up to be a certain type of person from, you know, preschool time all the way going up to let's be an adult and let's be 80 years old.
I agree. And I've heard that I could also teach Girl Scouts because they have a butterfly medal.
Oh.
And etiquette is one of the things that they have to do for the butterfly medal. So I'm available for any Girl Scout.
Oh, and that would be awesome. And then I'm sure that there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that focus on helping girls, definitely when you're talking about that adolescence to teen to preteen, that kind of area. And that would also be some great people that it would be wonderful for you to be able to teach. Now, when we're mentioning girls, you know, my business is derived off of working and focusing on women, but you could also definitely work with men because I heard that you've done some things as far as with the gentlemen to get them prepared for their etiquette as well.
Absolutely. If I have a mixed group of students, what I do with the men is I show them how to escort a lady, how you sit her in the chair. Then I show the lady how to get into the car because we don't get in like farmers, one big leg and then the other big leg. We don't do that.
Maybe we do. If you got big legs, you still got to get in there.
You're right. I understand. But you have to sit and spin. So it's easier to teach a man how to escort a lady when the lady is present.
Oh.
So if it's a mixed group, it's a whole lot of fun. You should see the boys looking like, I got to do what? Yes, hold your arm up, honey. You're not a fish either. Hold your arm up.
Yeah. Now, that then brings me to the other thing that I wanted to address. Because when you're talking about this and you're giving us this directive as far as the order that we should do things in, because of COVID, that order is going to have to be a little bit different. So nobody is gonna want to shake somebody's hand going forward. I had already stopped doing that at the beginning of this year anyway, because I was like germs. And I'm telling you, it's so crazy. And then I got sick. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely not touching anybody because I'm sick and then I don't want you to get sick. And then lo and behold, 2 months later, here comes COVID. And we're telling people to, first of all, socially distance. So don't be anywhere near me. And then that also is like a complete no-no as far as shaking hands. So since we're having to transition into this new way of doing things where the former form of decorum is not something that's going to be acceptable going forward, what would you suggest that people do instead of shaking hands?
There's nothing wrong with a good wave.
Okay.
Hey, how you doing? Or just verbally speaking. You have to talk through your mask. But people will say, hey, how you doing? Politeness doesn't always come just from your hand.
Oh.
It comes from who you are.
Yeah.
So you have to remember that. You can't let your mood dictate your manners.
Oh, okay. You have quotables. We're going to have to pull that out, right? Because, I mean, the thing is, no, you can have great manners. And I love the way that you said that because sometimes people, if they are in a bad mood, they will forget that they need to be personable. They will forget those things. And, and then that's the impression that you leave with people is that. So I want to talk to you about something because I know we discussed doing some of these trainings, right? But then making them a little bit more fun where you can do them like a girls' night in or a boys' night in or something like that. Or you can do them where you have larger groups of people and this way they can learn. We talked about sororities and fraternities. And we talked about even families as far as like family reunions because, everybody just goes and gets a plate and is not doing any form of etiquette when it comes to that, right? And so what would you just say, like, as far as if a person wants to hire you, and they want to have a girls' night in because it's something different, right? It's not just people just, let's get something to eat, something to drink. Let's not just Netflix and chill, but maybe we can actually take our time to learn something that will better us for when we go back out into the world. You know, what would you kind of say as far as people that might be interested in doing something along those lines?
That is perfectly fine. What we can do is set up either an actual visit where there's less than 10 people. I said children because, you know, that's what I do most. Or we can do a Zoom. If you have a lot of people that want to sit around, as long as everybody can see the computer and see what I'm doing to the plate, I think that would still be acceptable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is they can always hook the computer up to the TV, you know? So most people have a huge TV. And they could stream. Yeah, if it's a smart TV, then they can just kind of cast it to the TV too. So that would then give them something else, because we have to know that the world is going to come back online. Like, I think right now the world is in reboot mode. You know how like when you start your computer and it's got all the words across it and it tells you to press start and then it's got to go through its thing. That's how I feel like we're right now. But once everything comes back online and is fully operational, we will have to go back out into the world. And so etiquette is a part of that in how we treat people. And I think that more people definitely need to learn that. So what have some of your clients said, like after they've taken your classes? Have they been able to really incorporate it into their lives?
Yes. I've had some parents who will go, well, before the COVID, they would go to a restaurant and they would take pictures of their child using the lesson, like at Olive Garden or at Outback, and say, see, we're using it, right?
Yes.
Or I've had parents I had one parent in New Jersey that did do a Zoom lesson. And then she emailed me back and said, my children are reminding me what I'm supposed to do.
You better check them, parents and children. Come on, children, check the parents. First of all, Mom, that's not the right fork. Like, I could see somebody's kid being so sassy and telling them that.
You didn't rest your knife. Your knife is on the table. It's supposed to be on your plate.
No, but that lets you know that they were paying attention then, right?
They were paying attention. It was wonderful.
Well, this sounds like something to me that could be a great elective, but I don't even think it should be an elective. I think this should just be a life skills set of things to do. Now, what are your plans for this business? Like, what do you want people to do as far as what can we do to support you with your business?
I would love for people to even virtually sign up for a lesson. The lesson takes about 35 minutes without food, and you can get the same benefit even if you're watching me on a screen. And for adults, they could also have, like you said, the ladies' night out, or just something different to do instead of doing the same thing, especially since everybody's stuck in the house. I know that parents are looking for something for their children to do. And this will be a perfect opportunity for them to learn. Yeah,
definitely. And even for the teachers who are going to be home during this time frame, you just got to think about it. There's so many people that will be home. This, to me, would also be a really great thing for people who are possibly even unemployed or underemployed, and they're looking for something because they're eventually going to have to go back out and look for jobs and possibly have those lunch meetings and those things. I think this could be something really awesome for them. Now, have you worked with any restaurants or chambers of commerce or anything like that before? Because I think those would be really great people that you could possibly work with this business, because they already have people that need that specific skill set that you are offering.
I have worked with the Olive Garden in Pineville.
Okay.
They've allowed me to do adult lessons at their restaurant.
Oh, okay.
And ironically, the waitress that helped us was schooled in etiquette, so she understood what silent service was. So while I was teaching, she knew when it was ready we were ready for her to take stuff from the table.
Oh.
So it was good.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And I mean, even if you talk about that, I could see that could be something where you could even train the wait staff, like, because I don't know what each, who knows, but I love it when they refill your water without you having to ask, like, oh my God, that's such a thank you so much. Did you notice I was parched? Thanks. I appreciate this.
Didn't I look thirsty?
Go ahead and fill that glass back up. Thank you. Yeah. Now, when you're saying, okay, well, look, we're offering this service right now, you can do it virtually. If you're located in North Carolina, but specifically give them kind of an area where you'd be able to either have them come or that you'd be even willing to travel to in order to be able to deliver this service.
I'm willing to travel anywhere where anybody wants to learn. Half car will travel. But understand that the further I go, the higher the price, because I've got to get there.
Yeah.
But I'm located in Charlotte. We don't have a building yet, but I can come to you, or I have a place that we can go.
Okay. All right. And so if people want to travel to Charlotte, you could do a cool little day trip. I've been advising people because, I mean, I think it's a good idea. People still have Airbnbs. So if you could find a cool little Airbnb and they could hire you to do like a little experience and